Latest guest on the Counterattack here in our big conversation series. He is a veteran referee, international, NCAA, also USA Water Polo national referee, manager Levon Dermendjian joining us. Levon, how are you?
Good, Greg. How are you?
Doing okay, man. Thanks for joining. The impetus for reaching out and having you here, I think it's always a public service announcement when we can inform water polo fans more about the rules. And we're getting towards the postseason now, and people will be paying more and more attention to some of those big games. And so interested to kind of ask some questions of you of kind of rules clarifications, things that maybe you get asked all the time. We polled the audience on Instagram to see what they thought. But I want to start with what really made me want to reach out was Cal Fordham a couple of weeks ago, and this clip has been circulating a lot on the internet. Cal wins on a shot at 6, Thomas Peroni at like 2 seconds left. A lot of folks that watch this clip, right? He's fouled outside 6. He gets the ball, he kind of drifts inside 6 meters, takes a shot and scores. And a lot of the comments are inside the 6. Wasn't called, of course. He's able to score the goal. Curious, can you dive into that rule a bit? Like what it is by the book and maybe how it is kind of used in actual games to start us off?
Yeah, sure. That's been an interesting clip. So foul outside of 6, it has to be outside of 6. It cannot be on the line, so it must be outside of the 6. And then you're able to shoot directly. Sometimes the player will have a little bit of a follow through or will go forward a little bit on their shot. With the referee, with respect to the rules, as long as it's not something where it's just so overly obvious, so overly bad, so they're clearly just leaping inside. It's a tough call to make to turn the ball over because you have to think about it. The defense did something wrong. They fouled outside of 6. The referee should not be in a hurry to then turn the ball over on that particular player. So in a moment like this, with the game where it is, it would have to be a pretty significant violation for the referee to then, if you will, take it out of the player's hands and then make a big decision of that kind. I think the camera angle of that goal plays a little bit of a role too, right? That camera was not situated exactly on the 6 meter line. So while I think maybe people think that the player went inside, I think it could have been more along the lines of the player maybe on the line that was when the shot was released. So, but yeah, interesting play for sure.
Yeah, and one that we'll certainly see a lot more of. It's such a critical kind of like end of game strategy, especially as we get deeper here in the season and then on the postseason. From there, I have to imagine whether it's coaches, players, fans, people are asking you questions from time to time. Is there like a number one or top 2 things you're often getting asked for clarification on when it comes to rules or calls?
Yeah, I think the number one by far still is the foul from behind rule, where that if you are a player that is inside 6 meters going towards the cage or facing the cage and the defender is behind you, they are only allowed to touch the ball or the hand. If they touch anything else that does not allow the player to continue the action and score the natural goal, the referee is then to award the penalty shot. There's a lot of confusion in this particular rule. One is that what is a probable goal situation, right? I think a lot of times people forget there's multiple factors when it comes to probable goal. So number one is you have to be inside 6 meters for a probable goal. You have to be facing the cage for it to be probable goal. And then also if you have multiple defenders or a defender in front of you, a defender in the cage, anything of that nature, that means you are not in a probable goal situation anymore when there's multiple defenders around. So in that particular case, if you're not in a probable goal situation, in the referee's opinion, then the player can pull your arm down from behind or the side or anywhere else, and it's not a call. Unfortunately, we do have confusion many times, not only with coaches, but also with referees, where they believe that even though maybe not a probable goal situation was there, that, pulling the arm down should still be an exclusion. That is not the case, unfortunately, with our rules, right? So the rules say that I am allowed to hold, sink, and pull you back as long as you are not holding the ball. Right? I'm not allowed to do that as long as you're not holding the ball. But if you're holding the ball, I'm allowed to do that to steal the ball out of your hand, as long as it's not violent or over aggressive. So in this particular case, it's either a penalty or it's no call. There's nothing in the middle, And so I think we still see frustration or confusion with that. And now I think more we're seeing the questions I've gotten recently are the goalkeepers coming out from the front. Player comes up to try to shoot. The goalkeeper comes and tackles from the front, and the expectation is there's a penalty still there. Again, unfortunately not. The rule is that it's the foul from behind. So if you have the ball in your hand, the goalie comes from the front and tackles you from the front, it's a no call. It's a steal. So I think that by far, number one, is still causing confusion with our coaches and some referees as well.
Yeah, and it's another one of those kind of plays that can develop pretty quickly. We were talking a bit before we started about differences between what we would call NCAA rules and then USA Water Polo / World Aquatics rules. Is this one of those ones where it's a bit different collegiately than what might be called internationally? I can remember for the longest time, college, right? You'd always see the post player kind of turn and skillfully let go of the ball to kind of initiate that penalty call as opposed to hanging on to it. Is that this kind of sequence you just described? Is this across all levels, or is it a little bit different depending on the type of play?
Fortunately, this particular rule, we're all on the same page: high school, USA, and NC2A. So that is one of the rare times that we are all, the interpretation, the actual rule, everything is all the same, thankfully.
What's one of the rules, just talking about those kind of disparities, because you ref all different levels? What's the thing where even like when you're driving over to the pool, you're like, okay, like international, like national team, I got to remember this versus I'm not doing, USC Cal.
Yeah, one of the things that stick out is so in NC2A, when we have minor incidents where there's minor shoving, minor talking back to either your opponent or the referee, we have what's called a MAM in the NC2A. So it's a one-hand rolling motion. We don't have that in USA and World Aquatics. We have a yellow card to show unsporting behavior. So that's one thing that you have to remember. I think the other differences, major differences, if there is the ones that have been recently talked about, is your flagrant misconduct versus violent action with World Aquatics. We have two completely different ones. We have a very harsh rule, which is 4 minutes down after a penalty shot for USA. But then with NC2A, it's just a penalty shot and just a single 6-on-5 possession. That's another big one, I think, that is a change. I think those are the two that stand out to me right now. But there's also, philosophy-wise, there's little differences. I think the way the game is called over the years, the NC2A, for whatever reason, has moved into a certain direction, and World Aquatics has moved into a certain direction that is not exactly the same. But I think for rules-wise, I think those are the two that stand out to me right now.
I'm so glad you brought up minor active misconduct. I think this is one that still confuses a lot of people because of the hand gesture. I think people see this rolling motion and they think this, even though it is just this, right? And so This in the collegiate level, right, this is the minor active misconduct. It just means that person has got to get subbed out, right? There's not a 6-on-5 taking place. It's just they have to go out and then someone new has to come in.
No, so it's a typical 20-second exclusion. So that player moves to the box for 20 seconds, and they're eligible to come back in as long as if there's 20 seconds has elapsed, goal scored, or change of possession. The only difference is that they only have 2 of those. So if they get a second minor active misconduct in the game, now they're gone for the game. They must sub out of the game, and they're no longer eligible to participate.
Got it. And so that's I think where you see some of the confusion between that and then this signal, still the rolled from the match signal that you see collegiately.
Correct. Yeah. So they would move. It's a 20-second exclusion. That player would move to the box. The substitute would come in. The player would then get out of the water and is now no longer eligible to participate.
And then the upgrade from there would be your brutality type call.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's so the difference between
arms crossed, right?
Crossed arms, yeah. So the difference, and I think this is a good time to explain the differences between those two. The traditional misconducts is usually you have is just over aggressive fouls. You know, the heavy two hand sinking fouls, things that don't belong, not in the spirit of the game, foul language, showing disrespect to the official, things of that nature. When it comes to flagrant misconduct in NC2A and violent action with USA Water Polo, that's intentional. There's an intent, and that the wording is malicious intent. So any kind of closed fist, if you swing a closed fist towards an opponent, that's violent action. That's a flagrant misconduct. So it's a purposeful action that is with malicious intent. Like I line you up on my back, I line you up, and I kick you in your face, or I maliciously throw an elbow. Those are the things that set apart the over aggressive, let's say two hand sink versus the flagrant misconduct slash violent action.
These most punitive calls, where do red cards come in conjunction with those? Sometimes you'll see these calls and then a red card will be delivered as well. Like sometimes I've seen them where there's not a card delivered. How do those work together?
Yeah, so a red card. So usually, what we say is in USA Water Polo, we have those two calls first. Those are the first two calls that need to be made for players' actions in the water. Once one of those calls are made, if the player continues to be disrespectful or refuses to leave the water, then an additional sanction, another penalty, which is the red card, is issued to that player. So now there's two violations on that player. Now there's a misconduct slash violent action, and now a red card. So for us, that's two separate violations, and now that player for USA Water Polo would be in jeopardy of being suspended. They're having their membership suspended because of those actions. Because we have in the code of conduct, we have a point system where each major violation carries a point. So same with NC2A as well. So if there is one of those calls, and then you continue to be disrespectful or you refuse to leave the water, and then a red card is issued. If after a red card is issued, you continue to be disrespectful and disruptive and refuse to leave the water, then the referee has the ability to forfeit the match because they believe that they cannot conclude this match with reasonable success. So,
and then one more on that, and then we can move off the really heavy stuff. But
yeah,
I think a lot of times you see a question too. Someone's rolled from a match, it's not a brutality, and people wonder, can they come back the next game? Or someone gets the brutality, maybe just that or that plus a red card. What's their status for the next match? Are they out for the next one? Are they out for the next two games? How do those calls then impact a player's future availability?
right. So every one is different. So like high school is different, NC2A and USA is all different in respects to this. USA for us, you're out for the match. You can play the next match as long as your points that you've accumulated. There's no additional violations that would keep you out. You are allowed to play the next match. For misconduct, any kind of red card or brutality or violent action, you are missing a one game. You have a 1 game suspension minimum. After that, then you could appeal your sanction after the fact, but you have a minimum 1 game you must sit out. That's pretty much the same with high school and NC2A. The only difference with high school is they do take misconducts very seriously. So if you call a misconduct, you're out for the next game as well. There's no doubt about it. So there's no appeals or anything. You get tossed from a game, you're out 100% from the next game. So that's the only difference there.
So come with college postseason coming up here, right? A misconduct is a standard role. That person can come back and play the next game. Someone given a brutality, they cannot return for the next game. They have a 1 game suspension.
Minimum 1 game suspension. I believe that I think we've seen where I believe I could be wrong, but I've seen conferences where I've heard that they have been multiple game suspensions, just depending on the action that was taken.
Excellent. Well, really, really good detail here. And I know we're getting like granular, but I think these are the things that come up a lot. People have these questions. We had a lot of questions like these come across on Instagram. Just going to run through some of these other ones. So thanks to everyone that submitted through the USA Water Polo channels. It was a pretty broad question around 2-meter rules. We've seen the addition of the goal box, for lack of a better term, right? Kind of being able to operate within 2 meters outside of kind of the goal area. What has that been like from an enforcement standpoint? I imagine it's been challenging, just another area to kind of keep an eye on for officials. It used to be pretty blanket, right? Just 2 meters across the board. Now you kind of have this goal box area to contend with.
Yeah, I think the most challenging part is the forward pass inside the 2 meter area or the goal box area. I think that's one that a lot of people have not got their head wrapped around. I actually taught a referee school not too long ago where the referees it was news to them. They hadn't heard about it, so it's a point of confusion. So basically. You cannot have a forward pass be thrown into the player that's in the box. So even if the player is outside the box and the passer who's passing the ball is outside the box, if they throw the ball and the ball is on a forward trajectory, and that player who's receiving the pass enters the center, the goal area to catch the pass, it is considered a forward pass and it's considered offsides and it's a contra foul. So before, what the rule used to be is that as long as the two players are equal with each other and the pass was thrown forward, the receiver was able to go forward and meet the ball as long as they stayed behind the line of the ball the entire time. That's no longer the case. So even though you are behind the line of the ball, if that forward pass takes you into the goal area, it's considered offsides and a 2 meter violation. So I think that's the one challenging part. The other challenging part is the opposite side of the goal box because you have players that are very close to that side, and this is where the perimeter referee helps with that violation, right? So the attack referee who's on the 2 meter line could see if the player is inside or not, but that far line where hey, are they inside from that standpoint? They can't really see. So this is where it's critical for the perimeter referee to help. And I think that we've done a pretty good job, but it's something that we always have to be aware of, right? And sometimes it's a very bang bang play, and we have to be on it.
This next question is very vague. It asked about making a face call. I'm guessing maybe that's like having a look of displeasure towards the referee. What's kind of your latitude in letting some of that stuff go when it comes to reactions from players, or conversely, like what are you looking for from a rule standpoint?
Yeah, look, number one is as a player, don't do things to bring attention to yourself. It's just not worth it, right? If you don't like a particular call, don't voice it, don't make gestures, don't do things like that. Go through your coach, go through your team captain, and then they will address it with the referees. Having said that, referees do not want to throw the hammer. Most referees do not want to throw the hammer at a player who just has a look to them, right? Looks at them. Most of the time, we encourage referees to then go to the coach. If it's a minor thing, go to the coach and say, "Hey, coach, player gave me this gesture, whatever. I heard this, whatever." Tell that player that can't have that anymore. So we try to take a less punitive approach if it's a minor violation. But again, you don't want to put yourself in that situation. Be respectful, play the game. A lot of calls are not going to go your way. It's just not worth the call that could potentially come your way. So.
You already answered this, but just acknowledging we got a question about kind of the attack from behind inside 6 meters and kind of the handball rules that you discussed there. So appreciate that question coming in. There was one about multiple exclusions. Can there be more than one? Obviously, the answer is yes. We've seen doubles all the time. I guess for you in a double exclusion, that to me always felt like, hey, here's a way to just try to lower the temperature on a series of events. How do you decide when to deploy a double? I guess that's part one. And then when you see the rare kind of 6-on-4 kind of exclusions in succession like that, that always just seems like a unique situation to me. And I guess, is that something that after that initial one, does that second one kind of catch you off guard? Do you kind of expect a second exclusion? I always wonder how a ref is able to kind of, I'm so focused personally as an announcer on like the power play unfolding. Then I see another one go, and it just almost catches me off guard sometimes.
All right. Yeah. Good question. So the first, let me take the one that you just mentioned with
Double, yeah, or whichever one you want. Yeah.
Oh, we'll go with a double. Yeah. So let's start with a double. So great tool to lower the temperature if the physicality, especially with two players. Sometimes you could see it building with two players that are just getting too aggressive with each other. They're playing each other, not really knowing where the ball is. And then, a lot of times they'll go underwater and you don't know who's initiating the contact. Okay, give me the ball. Both of you take a break. really helpful. My only concern with, and I direct this with the referees, is don't use the double where it's clear that it's not a double, right? If something occurs first and then there's a reaction that is technically not a double, or don't let it be a bailout type call where there's clearly one aggressor, and then a person who is tired of getting beaten on maybe does a little shove, hey, get off of me or whatever. Those are not equal, right? So I think we got to use some common sense here and make sure that the call is accurate. But when it is, very good tool. So, and then the second question. Oh, sorry. Can you remind me, Greg, what that second one was?
Yes, the second one was just like a 6-on-4, just like
That's
exclusions,
right.
like successively.
Right. And so 6-on-4, we are seeing that to be more common these days, especially in the NC2A level. What we tend to see is that when there's a 6-on-5, the post positions, the defenders that are guarding around the post, tend to be pretty heavy when it comes to trying to field block and then trying to move. So a lot of times we see a lot of sinking action. We see pulling back. And in those cases, yeah, the referee, if it gets to a point where they have to step in, they will call a 6-on-4. And that's where the majority of the calls come from for the second one, for the 6-on-4. So, but yeah, I think a lot of times maybe some teams and players think that because there's an exclusion, the likelihood of a second exclusion is not so high. So maybe I can take a gamble at some extra sinking or pulling, things like that. But at some point, we obviously have to draw the line and make the call.
Another question here coming in on 7-on-6. You see this often at the end of a quarter, end of game. If it's a goalie that's a good shooter, they'll join the offense, or they'll sub out the goalie and put in another field player. The question was, can that happen at any time? Could someone go 7-on-6 whenever they like? Is it only end of quarter scenarios? What are the rules behind that?
So in all rule books within USA, you can do it at any time. So in World Aquatics, a goalie is not allowed to switch caps, but with us, we are allowed to do that. So just notify the referee, notify the table, and then you are allowed to switch at any time. Coming soon, and maybe we could talk about that with some new rules coming on the horizon. You will no longer need to do that. A seventh field player could be placed in the water instead of switching caps.
That is thrilling news for me personally, because it is always a scramble to figure out who is the person that took off their normal field cap and put on the goalie cap. And it's a challenge to figure out who that person is. So I would love to see everyone just keep your caps on and let's go 7-on-6 with 7 field players. That's thrilling.
Right.
And we should talk about newer rules in a moment, but a few more questions here. Goalies getting excluded. So I think this can lead to confusion sometimes. You talked about it a little bit before. A goalie will be aggressive, kind of come off their line. Fans will see the goalie force a ball under and think, great, turnover, just like the rest of my defenders were trying to do. We see goalies excluded. Just take us through how goalies are getting kicked out when they're being aggressive on defense.
Yeah. So with goalies, unfortunately, we many times goalies don't have very much finesse when it comes to fouling when they come out to foul. So a lot of times they come out pretty aggressively, and that leaves the referee no choice. When you play a little too aggressive for player safety reasons, they have to exclude you at the very minimum. But one change for World Aquatics has been that it's a automatic penalty foul when it's fouled inside of the extended goal area, basically meaning 2 meters from the side of the cage all the way to the 6-meter line. If the goalkeeper comes down and fouls, it's an automatic penalty. We haven't adopted that rule in USA or in any of the rule books quite yet, but for the time being, are goalkeepers able to come out and commit an ordinary foul? Yes, especially on the sides of the pool where there's no advantage. There's multiple defenders back near the cage, and they just commit a normal ordinary foul. It's an ordinary foul. Could it be that it's an exclusion, a little bit heavier? Now we have to exclude? Absolutely. Could it be a penalty? Absolutely. So it just depends on the parameters of what is going on. If they take away a probable goal, absolutely it has to be a penalty. It's a very difficult situation, and the referee has to see exactly what's going on in that moment for them to make the accurate call that fits.
And last question that we got via Instagram, and this is pretty broad because there's so many levels of water polo. So maybe you can give an example of, say, JOs and college match. how are referees selected for the games that they officiate?
Yeah, great question. So let's just take JOs for example. So JOs, we have referees coming from all over the country. We select them, and then we then put them in different age groups. We make sure that there is a good balance between highly skilled, highly experienced referees in all age groups, then your middle road, and then some of the referees who are still new, but they're doing a good job. So there's a good balance for every age group so that makes sure that everything is okay. That's number one. As the day progresses, days progress, we have evaluators that are out there, great evaluators, former international referees and NC2A supervisor officials usually that go around, and they are evaluating the referees. They are in then constant communication with the head of the age group. So every age group, I assign a head official, a lead official to that age group, who then schedules the referees, and they work with me. We discuss every day. We look over the assignments. We make sure that everything is okay, and then they report back to those lead referees of what those evaluations are. So as the days go by, so first 2 days we collect the information, we see who is doing a great job, and then the third day we bring several referees to the top pool that have been getting good evaluations. From there, we evaluate the performance in that top pool to see who we are going to take. Let's say a group of 8 referees, we're going to narrow it down to 4 referees from that top group. Then those 4 referees work the semifinals on the last day. And then from those 4 referees, 2 of them end up working the championship match. So you have to perform. It's performance based. And I know a lot of times some people question of like, oh, why is this person here and this person's not? Well, because this person performed and this person did not in that moment, right? So that's how we do it. But yeah, we have great referees from across the country. That's one of the things that we focused on, is that there's diamonds in the rough everywhere in the country, and we want to make sure that we bring them out, they get them into the pipeline of our referees, and then and hopefully they have a pathway to the top.
And then from a college standpoint, and maybe it's different, and I'm curious if you could explain the difference. So if you're assigned to officiate, let's say, a Big West matchup, Long Beach State and UC Davis, how does that get handled? And then conversely, if you're doing an early non-conference game, Pepperdine's going to play USC, is that done differently because they're not part of the same league? How do those things unfold?
Yeah, so each conference with NC2A has their own supervisor officials, and so they go throughout the season. Some will release their assignments sooner than others. As they release their assignments, referees will then take their assignments and their calendars will start filling up. But usually it's just they have a core group of officials for each conference that they rely on, and then you get assigned. Most of the referees are on multiple conferences, so they, by the time they're done accepting games from all conferences, their schedule is pretty full. That's how that works.
And then, so for someone who's like trying to climb the ranks, right, and they were like, "Oh, I'm aspiring to be a college referee one day," I assume they're going to be involved in JOs. It's a huge opportunity to officiate, but is it literally just going to those coordinator of officials and saying like, "Hey, here's what I've done. Take a look at me," because you don't see there's not like a teamwork online posting for Big West water polo referee or MPSF water polo referee, right? So is it about trying to kind of share your resume and share your skills, maybe some video of what you've done showing that you can do this at a high level?
Yeah, different parts of the country work a little differently when it comes to NC2A. So on the West Coast is usually different. In the East, we have the CWPA. So one of the biggest things for me with USA Water Polo is we wanted to make sure that the referees who come to our main events, which is the ODP championships and our JOs, that they are evaluated by those conference supervisors. So we invite those conference supervisors to come out to watch the referees, to evaluate the referees. And over the years, there's been quite a few referees who have come to our ODPs or come to our JOs who then get added to the CWPA list or to the other conference list because they are being evaluated with some of the best athletes we have, right? So that's the opportunity that we wanted to present, and I think that's been working out so far so well. And the West Coast, it's a little bit different. There's so much competition there. Your first entrance to NC2A is usually the community college ranks. So if you're a good high school referee, then you have to get some kind of endorsement to then go and work your community colleges, and that's how you start building a resume usually. And then from there, another conference supervisor will see you, will come in and evaluate you maybe, and then invite you to their conference, and then it just keeps going from there as you build your resume.
Last thing for you, Levon, appreciate all this good information. New rules on the way. What are some things that we should be on the lookout for coming up?
Awesome. Yeah, so coming up starting January 1st, we have a couple of new rules that World Aquatics has implemented already this year that we are going to be implementing for us as well. Because we have, 95% of our matches are youth matches, we tend to gear our rules to our youth water polo, right? So the few that we are going to be adopting as well, we already talked about one of them, is the seventh field player. So no longer do you need to switch caps. You can just throw in the seventh field player, hockey style, right? Pull the goalie, seventh field player. The only thing there is that you will have no one in the field of play that will have goalkeeper privileges. So that's the only downside to it. So if a seventh field player comes in and uses two hands to block a shot or two hands to play the ball, depending on where they're located in the pool and a probable goal situation, the appropriate penalties must be called if that does occur. So that's the only downside, but I think this is a big benefit to the teams and the referees. It makes sense, right? So that's number one. The second one we have, I'm quite excited about this, is that no longer does it matter where the foul occurs for a player to shoot the ball. As long as the ball is outside of 6 meters, a player could shoot the ball directly or put the ball in play and then shoot. So, for example, if an exclusion happens while the ball is on the perimeter, the center defender gets excluded. Normally, with the rules that are current, this player outside of 6 cannot shoot the ball. Now, with the new rule, they're allowed to shoot directly, or they can put the ball in play and then shoot.
So it doesn't need to be their foul. They can shoot off of someone
Correct.
else's foul. Yeah.
Correct. As long as the ball is outside of 6 meters. Yep. And then also, let's say if you are a player who gets fouled just inside, you have the ball, you get fouled just inside of 6 meters. Let's say you get fouled at 5 meters. You are now going to be allowed to pop the ball because you need to make it live. You can now move outside of 6 and then shoot the ball. So as long as the ball is outside of 6, you're good to go. So, again, so if you get fouled outside of 5, I just want to make sure that it's clear to everyone. If you get fouled inside of 5 or 6, you move it outside of 6, you're considered a live player. You can shoot from there, or you can move back inside of 6, go straight to the cage, and score a goal. Not a problem, as long as that ball moves outside of 6 meters. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, an interesting change, that the one that I like as well. Just makes sense. If the ball's outside of 6, why not be able to shoot? One issue that we were going to see with this particular rule that I think could cause some issues is that while a referee is excluding a center defender at center position, a shot could come very quickly. So the goalkeeper has to be paying attention the entire time. The one thing that's going to cause some issues, I think, is that while the referee is blowing the whistle to exclude a player, a goal can be scored while the referee is still completing their exclusion whistle. So the rule is that the first whistle that the referee blows stops the game. There is no expectation then for the player to wait for multiple whistles to be blown and completed before that player shoots and scores the goal. So, but if that player shoots and that ball is in the air, and then the referee starts blowing their whistle, it's dead. You have to nullify the goal. You have to say no. The free throw is here, and away you go. So, but yeah, I could see that causing a little bit of confusion, but I'm just want to put it out there. That'll be in our notes too when we release it to make it sure that everyone is clear about that. So, timeout before a penalty throw will now be allowed. So in NC2A and high school, we've been allowing this. So let's say if you have a shooter that you want to take a shot is on your bench, you can call timeout, and then that shooter could come in and take the shot, no problem. Only the team that's on offense can call a timeout in USA Water Polo. So no one on defense. But now
You can't like
the
ice the
team.
kicker here in a penalty
Correct.
shot, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the idea. So, happy to announce to a lot of people that wasting time will no longer be in the rules for USA Water Polo. So, if you are up by one and it's your possession, you can do anything you'd like with the ball. So, no expectation to advance the ball, to continue to play offense, anything like that. So, we're going exactly to where NC2A and high school has been for the last few years, and so that is going away. So, which is good news. And then the last change is that for a goalkeeper, so if there's a penalty shot and a goalkeeper then moves off the line during the administration of a goal of a penalty throw and blocks the shot, or the shot is missed, the goalkeeper now will be excluded for 20 seconds, and a field player from that team, defensive team, will go into the cage without goalkeeper privileges and then could then defend that shot. Before this rules change, is all it was a rethrow. So if the goalie came out and blocked the shot illegally, you would put five fingers in the air. You would say, "Hey, penalty." And then you would just take the penalty throw again. Here, there's an actual 20-second personal foul attached to it, which is going to be the new
That's
change.
that puts it back to regular offense though, regular 6-on-5. It's not taking a 5 meter against a field player now, is it?
Yeah. So the field player will move into the cage, and they will shoot against the field player. Was
Oh,
that
okay.
what you
Okay.
meant?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, in that moment, you are not able to sub a backup goalkeeper. Whoever is in the field of play, one player can go in and defend without goalkeeper privileges.
And they have to try to block a 5 meter penalty shot, is what you're saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
with one
Yeah,
hand.
with one
Yeah,
hand.
yeah,
Yeah, I think Johnny Hooper did that some years ago at a World Championships. So it can be done. But
yeah.
um, and then you had mentioned no wasting time. People have referred to that as stalling as well, right? In the past.
Correct. Correct.
Great.
Yeah. So now you can do anything you want with the ball.
Excellent, Levon. A lot of details here for everyone that stuck with us on this. I appreciate it. But hopefully you are a wiser water polo fan come this postseason and beyond. Levon, thanks for taking some time with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.